Everybody is infatuated with the new booking, the new money, the new guest. But the true wins is focusing on the people who have already given you money in the past, which is your list.
My great pleasure to welcome Mark Simpson to the pod. Mark, thank you for joining us today. What is an OTA and why do we as short-term rental investors generally rely on OTAs?
So an OTA is an online travel agent. They offer this commission model, which is really appealable to business owners. But the negative thing about that is, well, what happens when bookings stop coming in?
When you are booking direct, the marketing side is where a lot of people don't think about, because Airbnb and OTAs are so powerful. They do all that marketing for you. You don't have to do any of it.
Airbnb have built a phenomenal brand. They've built the trust factor. Most direct booking websites have not got the correct booking flow. To have a true booking website that is really going to work, you need to have...
How do you work with your clients to build that trust? So when someone comes in, they know that this is something that they can give you their money and believe they're going to get a good experience.
It all comes down to trust. How do you get that trust across?
Welcome back to STR Like the Best. I'm your host, Michael Chang. It is my great pleasure to welcome Mark Simpson to the pod. Mark, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for the invite. Looking forward to digging into this.
Yeah, no. Last time we saw each other in Nashville, I saw you and your team had a beautiful booth at Boostly at the conference, and Liam were one of the first people that I went on your podcast when I first started my talking more about what I do more publicly. So it's nice to be on the other side, so I can ask you a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Fire away. I'm an open book.
Well, before we start off, why don't I give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. So my name is Mark Simpson, founder of a company called Boostly. As you can tell from the accent, I'm not from America. I'm over in the United Kingdom. And I've been now founder of Boostly, started it 8 years ago in a little town called Scarborough in the United Kingdom. And it was all founded and started on the fact that there was nobody in the industry at that time that was giving help and guidance to other hosts on how to, get more bookings, but most importantly, get more bookings that are on their land direct instead of relying on the OTAs, which is Airbnb, Booking.com and VRBO. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. Started with just 5 people that I was helping in the local area. The plan and the goal was to always have it as a local business just to help Scarborough and Whitby. But I made the mistake of putting it as a Facebook group. And the thing about Facebook and Facebook groups is anybody can join it from anywhere in the world. And before I knew it, hosts were looking to join from all areas: Australia, New Zealand, Scotland, America, Canada. And that's how word of mouth spread. And over the past 8 years, there's obviously been loads of like pivots and changes and all the things that have happened, hockey stick moments. And, Clubhouse was definitely one of them. Without Clubhouse, I wouldn't have met the amazing people that hosted the event that we saw each other in Nashville. And it's just sort of powered and kicked on from there. Really, we've now got 2,000 to 2,500 clients. We do website design. We do coaching, training. We have a CRM. We've got all of the things. And last year in 2023, we managed to track $62 million of direct bookings directly from our websites. And literally just last week, we won an industry award. So there's a thing called the Shorties, which is like the Oscars of the short-term rentals. And we were able to pick up the Consumer Champion Award, which is like a massive achievement for the team behind the scenes, because we work really, really hard to make sure that all of our customers feel heard, wanted, and loved, and to get that initiate like acknowledgement was epic.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on that award. Paul and his team over at Short Term Rentals do a great job. So congrats on that. And why don't we get straight into it? Let's unpack a little bit on what you said there. Building on other people's land, OTAs. I think let's start off. Just to give some context to the audience. What is an OTA? And then you mentioned Airbnb, and but like, what is an OTA, and why do we as Airbnb or short-term rental investors, why do we generally rely on OTAs from your view?
Yeah, so an OTA is an online travel agent, and way back when I first got properly into this industry was 2011. There was Booking.com, which is the Booking Holidays group, and there was the Expedia, which is VRBO. Airbnb wasn't really around back then. and especially in the UK, it was this little upstart. And the reason why online travel agents got very, very popular is because they offer this commission model. Now, when the commission model was first coming out, there was literally listing sites, magazine, newspaper ads, right? Where you pay up front and there's no guarantee that they're going to work. And you are hoping that you are going to get enough revenue coming to justify that
Yep.
cost, which is how most advertising works. And then these big companies said, well, hang on a second. You pay nothing to get listed on this site, i.e., booking.com, Airbnb, and you only pay on performance, aka commission. Now, booking.com, 15%, VRBO, 15%, Expedia, 15% can be higher. And then Airbnb came in with a 3% commission model, and then they charged a guest anywhere between sort of 12, 13%
Right.
service charge, which was really appealable to business owners, especially for those that are just getting started. You know, think back to when you had your first property, you could literally get listed on Airbnb, nothing to pay, only pay when you get a booking. Brilliant. The thing about this industry compared to any other industry, you can literally get started, list your business on free websites, and be pretty much guaranteed to get revenue. Obviously, it depends on where you are in the world, what seasonality you're in, what's your market. But, you know, because we're in an industry that is so in demand, we're in an industry of making memories. There's like free websites you can go list your business on and be pretty much guaranteed
Yeah.
to get revenue. That's a plus. That's a blessing. The curse is the other end of that, is that where hosts became over reliant. And when you become over reliant, you become lazy and you just go, it's all right. I'll just get bookings on Airbnb. Don't have to worry about anything else. But the negative thing about that is, well, what happens when bookings stop coming in? Maybe it's a couple of crappy reviews and you tank down the algorithms. Maybe it could be something a bit more severe where your listing gets suspended, or even worse, your account gets suspended or deleted. And then what? That is when you're in the other side where it's, this is where I've got to do something about it. So this is what the online travel agents are. This is why they became so popular. And yet it's got its pros and cons. And obviously there's so many people who'll be listening to this and you may be sat on both sides. You know, you may be absolutely love this. I've just got going. I'm really happy. Or there's so many people that we all know who are on the other side who have had something bad happen and they sort of felt the pain.
Yeah. Thank you for the context. I think a lot of people maybe are newer to the industry and, don't know kind of the history of how it evolved. It really Airbnb, and then, it enforced changes from some of the other OTAs, but it really democratized the short-term rental space, the vacation rental space broadly, right? You didn't have to pay. And it was a very kind of defined set of guidelines for you to get, massive free distribution, right? Because you're providing the supply to the platforms. To your point, you list on 3 sites, you're going to get thousands of free views, quote unquote, free views on your listing. And you also get, obviously it's the guest that pay. The guest always pays everything really, but it's out of their, that 15% is out of their wallet. It's only 3% out of your wallet. So it looks from the host side that you're getting a much better deal. And to Brian Chesky and Airbnb's credit, and that was phenomenal kind of business strategy. They've grown tremendously, and I think that's where, to your point of being over reliant, it's so easy and so powerful that it's very easy just to live on Airbnb. Like I have a peer here in the US. He has over 400 apartments that he, I think you guys call it subleasing. It's a strategy called Airbnb Arbitrage that he goes and he rents and re-rents, and he's only on Airbnb. Like he's doing $10 million a year plus in gross revenue. He's only on Airbnb. He's not even on Booking.com, VRBO, Expedia, Direct, nothing, none of that. It's just Airbnb. Just illustrates the power of that platform. And with Airbnb, it's nice in the way that you have this nice technology stack in the back. Their payments are basically guaranteed. You don't have to deal with payment platforms, Stripe and payment platforms. You have the review structure. You have their air cover program. You have their liability protection. So you're paying 20%, but there's a lot of value. I just want to present a balanced view. I mean, it's a very powerful and it's a very important message. Right, you can't be 100% reliant on one distribution platform. Something wrong happens. There's a ton of horror stories on Airbnb about they've kicked people off where they said, hey, your name matches a criminal, and they're like, hey, it's not me, it's someone with a similar name or something like that, and
Mhm.
then they get their account suspended, and you have liabilities against these properties, so you have to make sure you're making revenue. Us personally, we utilize, HostAway. We're on multiple platforms, so that Airbnb is about 60% of our business, but we try to make sure that we're well distributed so that if something does happen, we can shift onto different platforms. So let's talk about the direct. So Boostly does the direct booking side. So what? Maybe you can just talk a little bit about that dichotomy, right? Like when you are booking direct, you have to have infrastructure, and I think that's where Boostly comes in. But you need to have infrastructure, but you also need to have marketing. So maybe you can just spend a few minutes on that infrastructure side, and then the marketing side. I think the marketing side is where a lot of people don't think about as much, because to your point, Airbnb and OTAs are so powerful. They do all that. They do all the marketing for you. You don't have to do any of it.
Yeah. So when it comes to direct bookings, you're right. There is work. You can't just get a direct booking website, for example, sit back and wait for the bookings to sort of land. But my argument to that is welcome to the real world. This is what being a business owner is like. When I started Boostly, we obviously sell websites as part of what we do. There's no listing site that I can go and put my services on that would be guaranteed to drive revenue in. I had to do what everybody else does, and people who come into this industry from other industry have had to do, where you have to go and build a brand, develop a niche, pretty much drag customers kicking and screaming, and then you go from there. So it is work, but that is what being a business owner is. You don't just, like I say, create a site and then sit back, wait for those reservations to come in. But it's coming to a point now with Airbnb. Those of you who are so reliant on Airbnb, it's not 2021 anymore. Those of you who've only come into the industry over the last 4 years, you've seen the boom, which was obviously staycations, which was obviously travel restrictions, which meant that for so many people, you could go and get a short-term rental property on an arbitrage model or a management model. And depending on where you were, like I said, be guaranteed. And you got some bang for the buck as well. ADRs being really nice. But we are now to a point where restrictions are lowering, cruise ships are back, hotels are open, international travel is going, and that's where people are going. And so the we are going back to the trend of where it was in 2018, 2019. So a lot of people are complaining, the media like to call it Airbnb bust, but it's not that. It is literally going back to where it is. And so even those of you who are reliant on Airbnb, you are having to put the work in. You are having to tweak your listings. You are having to do X, Y, and Z. I see so many people now going on social media, promoting their brand on social media. But when it comes to the click to book, the link goes to Airbnb.
Yeah.
Bananas to me, because you are doing all of this work to build a social media brand, and then you are doing the work for Airbnb. I mean, I got up on stage in Nashville in 2022 in front of 1,000 people at STR Wealth, and I said, "Listen, you are literally branding other people's business, somebody else's business. Every time you walk around and call yourself an Airbnb host or saying you're staying at an Airbnb," which got a lot of traction at the time, but it is true. And so, yeah, direct bookings is work, but that's what it's called, running a business. And the
Yeah.
beauty of it is the things that I show you. And I've written a book on this. It's called the Book Direct Playbook. It literally,
I have it. I'm literally looking at it,
there we go.
actually.
Good man. So yeah, the book is always behind me. It looks like this, called the Book Direct Playbook. It's literally on Amazon. You can go and grab it. Costs less than $10, but it's packed with 100 tips. And these 100 tips, the cool thing about it is that the majority of them cost no money. It just takes a little bit of time. And either you can run this, or if you're smart and savvy, you can hire somebody on your team to go and do this for you. But yeah, it's so key, because like I say, the end goal is to be exitable. The end goal is to have a business that you can literally pass on to somebody else and they'll give you a big bang for the buck for. But to get there, you've got to have multiple revenue streams.
Yeah. And so, and you actually reminded me of something. So I tested this out, and I'll share my experience. Exactly kind of what happened to me. We partnered with a social media influencer, and this person was very geographically niche. So she actually is amazing. We've gotten a ton of leads from her through, she posts this on social media, and then we have an arrangement with her where we're on her link tree. She has her properties, and she allows us to list, kind of have our properties on there,
Mhm.
and we have an arrangement. I tried that, so I linked it to my direct booking website, and to see if I was going to get conversions. So obviously, I can see how many people kind of go in there, and then I have the Google Analytics to kind of see how the progression. My drop off rate was really high. I forget the exact term, but it was extremely high. And we're just like, man, I don't know. We should be getting better. These are really good leads, right? These are people interested in a specific geography, very high volume vacation rental area. Like, why aren't we getting more conversions? And we tested. We tested on. It wasn't a Boostly site. It was just something that was in our PMS that we could spin up easily. We tried the direct booking website, didn't work. We tried VRBO because they had a lower commission. It didn't work. And then we tried Airbnb, and it was much better. Like, the conversion metrics were over 2x VRBO, and materially higher than our direct booking website. And so I just kind of share that data point because I had the exact same thing. I was like, why? Like, if I can entice these guests to book at a lower price, actually, right? They're paying less on my website versus going to Airbnb. They should, their economic incentive should be to book direct. But that, in my direct booking website, it wasn't too great. But I think that kind of illustrates the power of like the Airbnb website, the reviews, the air cover program. They're smart too, right? All the things they've built, that ecosystem they built
Oh yeah,
around
no,
Airbnb,
they are so clever. I mean, like
they're really
you
clever.
got to give props to it. I think
So we had to. So we had. Sorry. So just to finish. So we had to do that. So we literally had to go, and we just, now it's Airbnb links on there, and I see the conversion metrics, and it just is what it is. No, but please go ahead. I didn't want to cut you
Yeah, I
off.
was
I
going
just
to
wanted to
say
finish that.
Airbnb have built a phenomenal brand. They've built the trust factor VRBO haven't, right? And the problem with a direct booking website, most direct booking websites have not got the correct booking flow. So what you want to do is you want to have a website that clearly builds trust, builds authenticity, but when they go through that booking flow, it is as easy to book as it is on Airbnb. This is what we've been crafting for years here, and this is why what we have built is as close to a perfect booking process as possible, and it is built to replicate Airbnb, which is, again, we don't try and reinvent the wheel. We just look at what everybody else is doing well. We also look at what the Marriott, the Hiltons, the big chains do well, and we bring it into a direct booking site. Now, the problem with a free website from a PMS is that they are glorified landing pages. They are,
They are
they are
100%.
they are nothing more than that. And this is not me calling out the property management software. This is not me calling out HostAway. They're all as bad as each other, but they all admit that they don't want to do website development because they want to do this at scale. And to do this at scale, you do not want to get involved in website development. Trust me, we do website development. It's not scale to hundreds and hundreds of thousands, right? So this is why we partner with them. So we partner with HostAway, we partner with Guesty, we partner with all of them. And they all pass their guests and customers through, their customers, not guests, their customers through to us because they know that we build the website, and our website and our framework works because we have built this over the last 8 years. This is why we had $62 million of tracked direct bookings. And what I would say to your experience would be fantastic. We've got the influencer who has put you on her link tree and now she's coming through to your website. I would much rather for them to go from a link tree where, again, the influencer has the trust, the influencer has the audience. Having somebody that follows you on social media to the point of where this person has a very engaged following is like, if this influencer says, hey, come and check out A, most people will just follow like sheep. They won't ask
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Instead of just going to a plain site, or even worse, send them to VRBO, I would have sent them to a very specific landing page on your website that would be collecting their phone number and their email address, because that's where you're going to have a lot more chance of conversion, because then you're building a list, which is a key part of all marketing. You want to be building a database and a list so that when you see, Mark Simpson, UK phone number, email address coming to your lead gen, you know that they are a hot lead. So that way, if you have the sales knowledge yourself, or even if you've got a team that can do this for you, you can pass this through and say, this person's come from here, they're interested. let's go and close a deal. They can call them, they can ask for dates, do the things that Airbnb doesn't do. Airbnb doesn't have a call center. Airbnb doesn't have a travel itinerary concierge. They may be called online travel agents, but they are not travel agents. They're just listing sites, right? So whatever you
Right.
can do on the back of that, I guarantee your return and your close rate would have been a lot higher by sending to a specific landing page that says X, Y, Z, please, leave information and we'll get in contact with you.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, I hadn't. It's been such a positive positive EV experience where we're obviously just getting a ton of really good leads, and so we're not paying per click. That's a good idea, actually. We're on different systems, but I mean, I'm sure there's a technology workaround. But actually, let talk a little bit about the integration between the PMS systems and Boostly, or a direct booking site. So, and this is a little more advanced topic, but for folks, a PMS is a property management system, which basically is a separate piece of software that allows you to list on multiple websites, Airbnb, Booking.com, etc., and automate a bunch of different workflows. So whether it be messaging, pricing, payments, it allows you to kind of do everything in one place. So that's why it's so valuable. And what they have, most of them have an option where they'll create a website, a landing page. You're absolutely right there. A landing page that allows people to book directly from you, so they don't have to go to the OTAs. The issue is, how did people know to come to your website? And when they come to your website, why would they trust it and put in their credit card information and believe that they're going to show up in a different city 3 months from now and it's a good experience for them, right? And which is where Airbnb comes in. So I think, Mark, that's where I wanted to kind of take the next part of this conversation. Like, how do you think about replicating that trust in what Boostly does, right? Because getting 60 plus million of bookings is a huge accomplishment. But maybe talk about, like, how does the website design, like, how do you work with your clients to build that trust? So when someone comes in, they know that this is something that they can give you their money and believe they're going to get a good experience.
Yeah. And so another book that we put together was this one. It's called the Book Direct Blueprint. So we got the playbook and the blueprint. And in here, there's a chapter that is 33 top secret tips on how to build out a website. So if you want to get the short and like dirty on this, go get the blueprint. It's a nice follow-up to the playbook. But it all comes down to trust. How do you get that trust across? And again, full context, 99% of other website designers, we have people come to us all the time saying, why should I spend money to join Boostly when I can go on Fiverr and get somebody for $200, right? That is true. You can go. But the problem is that most website designers don't understand this industry. Most website designers don't understand the booking flow that a guest goes through, a future potential guest, as we call it. And with that being said, to have a true booking website that is really going to work, you need to have the API integration into the property management software tool.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the first stage is research. Okay. And when you're at the research stage, you could be on Google, you could be looking on the listing sites, etc. Let's just say they come across your business. And if you're doing that right and you're on your listing site, you're promoting your brand. For example, we work with Rob Abasolo from the Bigger Pockets crew and Rob Built. We built out his brand and his website, which is Neek Sleeps. And if you now go onto his Airbnb listings, you will see that Neek Sleeps is proudly branded all over. So when a future potential guest lands on one of his properties, they have got a Googleable phrase. So, for example, he's just opened one in Texas called the Pink Pickle, which is heavily aimed at bachelorette parties in Texas, right? So if you Google the Pink Pickle, Google Neek Sleeps, his website will come up. When they land on the website, the first thing that you notice is it's clearly speaking to his audience, right? It's clearly speaking to who his avatar is. And as you scroll down the page, we're able to pull in, with the tools that we've created, we're able to pull in all of his Airbnb reviews. Again, 93% of all purchases are on the back of social proof. All that we do is we bring in those reviews. One of the major reasons why people leave a website is because they haven't got reviews. So they don't trust that it is real. There are other guest verification certification softwares out there like iPrac, i-prac, which is probably the largest trust verification tool that there is out there. iPrac basically means if a guest books with you directly, And if they arrive at your property and that property isn't there, iPrac will rehome you to the value of some of the booking. So again, it builds that trust. This is one of the things why Airbnb have done so well, is that when you make a booking on Airbnb, you know that they've got you back. They will rehome you if something goes wrong, X, Y, and Z. So how do you build that trust with a direct booking? Social proof, trust verification, again, to show that you are a real business is a big part. So when they land on your website, it is the first digital impression of you, your business, and your brand. It's your online business card. And if somebody lands on your website and if it looks a bit shady, if it doesn't look correct, you get confused, then the person is going to lose. There's a book that I love. It's called Story Brand by Donald Miller. And the key phrase in that book is, if you confuse, you lose. And you see it time and time and time again on these direct booking websites that fail. So for the last 8 years, like I say, we've been perfecting our formula, this framework that works inside out and backwards. We've tested it numerous times with all of our people, millions and millions of views across all the portfolio. And we just, over the years, just fine-tuned it and tweaked it. So it just makes sure that it works time and time again.
You're the second guest that's referenced that Donald Miller book, actually.
It's a
I have to, I gotta get that book, actually. You're the second person to talk about this. Look, I mean, that's smart, right? You deconstructed kind of the Airbnb playbook, right? And be able to provide, a similar experience, because obviously, look, I mean, what they've done is it works, right? You can see from their metrics, it works, and be able to do that. So let's go to the second part of this, right? It's where the marketing part, right? So it's one thing to have a beautiful website. And personally, just talking about my journey of, going from one listing to 32 now, helping, the students in our community build their businesses. As you get to a certain scale, then you definitely, I mean, look, in the beginning, my advice in the beginning, just get very good on Airbnb. Your first few listings, like, just get really, really good on Airbnb, because that's going to be your biggest bang for the buck. And then you get on a PMS system, whether it's HostAway or something simpler, you get on the other OTAs, right? And then once you kind of get really good on the OTAs, then the next part is direct bookings. At least that's the way that's what I believe in, actually. Like, that's the playbook, just given the finite amount of time and resources most hosts have. And then once you get, you obviously, you got to build the website. So, and I agree with you, the PMS stuff is lacking. It's not, their landing pages are not real websites. So having a professional website like what Boostly can do is definitely would make a big difference. And then say that helps conversion, right? You get 10 people in, you convert 5 instead of 1. That's great. But how do you get people in, right? Like, I know you've thought about this, but how do you get people into your website? Now, you can do what you just talked about, right? Have a bunch of images on Airbnb that have the logo on there. I do think at a certain point they are going to, you're going to get an email from them, or they're going to just have the AI that just basically sees text and is just going to gray it out. They're going to do something, right? They're not blind to it. They know it's happening. But maybe talk about that.
So first and foremost with that, you're right. If you put a watermark on an image, the new AI tool that they have purchased, they basically purchased Game Planner. For anybody who hasn't seen the news, did it a while ago. They're starting to implement these features. One of them will be to do what humans can't, which is mass check all of the images on the site within minutes, and anything with a watermark will get flagged and you will get a message. But there are ways around it, as always. One of the things that I love to do in a photo shoot is when you've got the photographers that are taking pictures of a close-up of maybe the dining room or the living room, have your branding present in that picture. So it's not a watermark, it's baked into the actual image. Now, it could be one of the cool things that Rob's done, for example, bringing it back to the Pink Pickle, he's got this pickleball courtyard. Part of the wall mural is their Instagram handle. So it's loud, clear. No AI is going to detect that, but to the eye, it's obvious. The second thing that you can do.
Actually, Mark, let me interrupt you for one moment there. I've seen something kind of very, very creative and smart. I've seen when people take photos of all the TVs of their properties, they have like the screensaver. The screensaver saves, like, it's like the branding of the company. So, like, to your point, it's part of the picture, but
part of the
with a
picture,
purpose.
it'll never get flagged, but it will, to the eye, you can see it. The second thing is in the description and your profile. So in the description, Airbnb is very unique. VRBO, Booking.com, you don't get the ability to do this, but you've got full reign to put whatever copy you want in the description. So the best thing to start off with is the first thing that they see. So, for example, bringing it back to Rob's business, it'll be proudly Neek Sleeps proudly presents a pink pickle in Texas, right? That is instantly be Googleable, right? They can instantly do that and do a Google. And if they haven't cottoned on, in the second line, you can say, check out our online reviews. They're really good. So you're literally saying to them, go. Now, the big mistake that people make here, they go, best rates when you book direct, go to www.da-da-da-da. Don't put a domain in, it's going to get flagged. You can put your Instagram handle, but don't go instagram.com. Do at, because everybody knows what the at symbol means now, and then Neek Sleeps or whatever you're going to put in. Then you give the actual listing description, right? And then in your profile, you double down on this. So the profile is something that Airbnb have been working a lot on. Again, you get some decent copy. So you can go, hey, my name's Rob. I'm the CEO and founder of Neek Sleeps, which is based out of wherever. Again, making it Googleable. That's how you drive people from Airbnb to your direct booking site. You're not going to take them straight to your direct booking site. You're going to send them to Google. But if you do Google right, and if you do your website right with decent SEO, then when somebody Googles you, your website, your business, your social medias will come up at the very top and not Airbnb, Booking.com, VRBO.
Yeah.
It's all about making the OTAs work for you and not the other way around. I think the big misconception of what I do and what I talk about is they go, oh, Mark, so you're saying I've got to delete my Airbnb listing. No, absolutely not. The percentage I gave was not 100% direct. It is a dangerous going 100% direct than it is being 100% on the OTAs. So what I said was you've got to be aiming for 65% direct and then 35% other people. And that is a real good place to be. But it's, you cannot ignore Booking.com, Airbnb, and VRBO. They spent billions last year in advertising costs. They have never spent as much money as what they spent in 2023 on advertising, which is pay-per-click, which is branding, TV deals, all of those things. You've got to take advantage of that, get people onto your listing by showcasing that, and then driving them to your direct booking site.
That's really, really smart. That's where letting the OTAs kind of work for you to not, you're paying them the marketing spend and getting more clicks to your website, and to your point too, making sure you collect the emails is critical. When we first thought about this, it was more of having something where repeat bookers could come back and book. And I think that's the second, I would imagine that being the second leg of that stool, like one, using the OTAs as part of your marketing, and two is making sure that you get your return guests that want to come back to your property. They don't have to go back on the OTA. They can come and find you. So what we've done is, we have material at the properties like, hey, scan the QR code here, follow the account. If you ever want to book back here, you can, go on this website and book with us directly, right? So it's obviously, it's in our property. We can market however we wish. What we'll do as well is we'll make sure we have an online check-in form so that when they check in, we have their, obviously we have their name, phone number, email. And then what we also do is, instead of using a company like StayFi, where they have to give their information to log into Wi-Fi, what we do is actually instead of having the Wi-Fi information posted around the property, like we used to do, we used to say, hey, you're here, this is the Wi-Fi, enjoy. We actually have a QR code now on there that, they scan. And then we'll ask them, like, hey, would you mind giving us your contact information? If you want to book with us directly, we'll send you the website. You can get 20% off your next booking, right? And then it's because everyone's going to go on the Wi-Fi. So we do that, and it's like it's like an easy type form integration. So it's like free. We don't have to pay for the hardware, and you not only get the booker, right, which you get from the online check-in forms, you actually get everyone in the group too. So that we've had like pretty good success with. So, we always just try to think creatively on how we can get more people to your point on direct. And for us, it's like 5%. I can't say we've done a ton of work behind it, just because you're just focusing on getting good on OTAs, or, kind of making sure that we continue to rank page 1, page 2. But that's something else that we've done as well to leverage that. And I guess I'm curious on your thought there. Like, do you think the kind of PMS landing pages are good enough there? Is that good enough since the trust is already built, or you're still kind of doing yourself a disservice by not having, a real website?
So the main thing that we're talking about here is building a list, right? If you are going to retarget guests to come back and stay with you, it's all about building a database. And this is where most people fall down, especially in the hospitality industry. Everybody is infatuated with the new booking, the new money, the new guest. But the true
Mhm.
wins in business is focusing on the people who have already given you money in the past, which is your list. And this is a real good example. Now, I've talked about an exit several times in this interview. I want everybody to go and check out a guy called Isaac French of Live Oak Lake, based out of Texas. Really has a presence on Twitter where he's documented his journey. But I was very fortunate. He reached out to me 2023. He bought a copy of the playbook. He implemented a few of the tactics and tips, and he got in contact, and I got to know him a little bit. And then I see him popping up on YouTube videos with Cody Sanchez and Selby Church. And I'm like, who is this guy? He's a very smart chap. Anyway, he developed the power of working with influencers, of building a list and building his own brand. And last year, in the last 6 months, he has exited his business for $8 million. 2 million of that dollars was attributed to the fact that he built a social media brand and has an email list. So the power is there and the proof is there. And when it talks about marketing, it's like you say, hey, you've got a website. How do you drive people to that website? There's all forms of marketing. I've got 101 in this book, right? But what is, and what will be best out of all the forms of marketing is email. Because when you post on social media, right, you hit that post button on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, you're just literally throwing your post into the white noise. You're competing with billions of other people to try and get your post seen on the feed. It's impossible. When you have a listing on Airbnb, VRBO, booking.com, you're literally surrounding yourself by noise, right? When you got on there, even if someone lands on your listing, Airbnb is saying, hey, you like this? Check out this. That's what they're doing. But with an email, as soon as the end user, your future potential guest, opens that email, and as long as it's a nice crafted email, you've got one-on-one communication from top to the bottom. And again, as long as it's a decent email, it's not looking salesy or spammy, then you've got a very high success rate of it working. The stats of this is that for every $1 that you put into email marketing, you get 42 back. And we all love an investment here. 44,200% return on investment now. So it's not too bad. And the cool thing
Yeah, no,
about
I like
email,
that.
which is amazing, is the final thing about email, is that when you send it out, you can see everybody who's opened it, but more importantly, you can see who's clicked on links. So we had a client who we experimented this with last year. He had a 7,000 strong email list, adopting a very similar approach that you had right there, Michael, collecting the data, but not doing anything with it. We said, right, send this email to these people and talk about these properties, because he had a couple of properties in the UK that needed bookings. He's like, I really need these to get bookings. So we sent it out to the 7,000 people, and sending it out to 7,000 people is like a shotgun approach. You're literally shooting and it's spraying and praying. Now, with an email, we could see not only who opened it, but who clicked it. So, out of the 7,000 people, there were a couple of hundred people who opened it. Great. But there are 42 people who had clicked on a link to go and visit the place that they had reservations for. Again, a nicely crafted email, 42 people. Now we're able to do the sniper approach. So instead of trying to contact 7,000 people individually, we narrowed it down to 42. So we had the database. We knew who they were. We had their phone number. We had their email. So what we did next is we gave it 24 hours. We see if any bookings came in. 1 or 2 bookings did. Great. But then for the other 40, the owner followed up a personalized email to that guest over the next 48 hours. He even called a few people that he recognized. And on the back of that, we were able to generate 5 figures of revenue just off one email. So if we talk about all the tactics to do and all the things you can do, and again, there's 101 in here. If you want to just focus on one, it's email marketing and building that database and the list. Because at the end of this year, end of next year, there's going to be AI robots that can do all of this for you automated. But the only things that these AI robots will be able to build off is data. If you've got data, they can work. If you've not got the data, and if you've just buried your head in the Airbnb sand, you're going to get left behind. So that's
Yeah.
what market.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, I think just distilling that down, right? Like actually knowing who your customers are. Because when someone books on Airbnb, the OTAs, it's Airbnb's customer. They're going to your property, but they're Airbnb's customer. Just like you're Airbnb's customer, because you get paid by Airbnb, you don't get paid by the guest there. So knowing who your customers are, right? Getting their emails, getting their phone numbers is critical. Actually, a personal question for me. We actually just recently moved to Klaviyo from Mailchimp, kind of moved everything over, and then built a sequence. I actually met a guy in Nashville who's building some software, and he gave me his kind of Klaviyo. It was like a 180-day flow. Is that something that you like? Once you get their email, once you get their contact information, like how do you follow up with, or how do you advise clients to follow up with guests? Because one email 30 days later is not enough, I would imagine,
Yeah.
right? You need 8 touch points minimum.
So
How do you think about that?
if you've got an email, and let's just make the assumption that they've never stayed with you, but they're somebody who has been following an influencer, right? And they've seen a link and have clicked and have signed up to your emails to get more information. So there's two types. They're not a customer. It's all about education, right? Think about what we are selling. We are selling an experience at the end of the day, right? If you want to bake it down to even simpler terms, there's two things that we are selling. One is a good night's sleep, and one is hospitality,
Well,
right? If
mhm.
you can box off those two things, then that is literally what we are selling. But we are also doing experience. When a guest books to stay with you, doesn't matter whether it's a leisure or if it's a pleasure or if it's a business, right? They are going to have an experience when they come and stay with you. So, how can you best explain that? Well, you've got to become a brand ambassador for your local area. So, one of the things that we love to do when we build out templates, and again, one of the parts of Boostly, we talk about the tools, tactics, training, and what we do. Website's one point, but with the CRM, we actually have workflows built into every person who joins. You've got access to this, and part of this workflow is to showcase not only you but the area where you are located. So one of the cool things is to talk about the 5 hidden gems. An email very easy to put together is like 5 hidden gems in your local area. If you don't know what they are, go on TripAdvisor, Google Maps, and find 5 ones. But people love that sort of thing. Talk about events that are coming up. So if Taylor Swift's coming to town, talk about that in an email. I think the best example of this would be go and check out Gary Vaynerchuk's book, which is Jab, 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 Right Hook. It's all about give, 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 and then ask. The problem with so many people on socials as well as email is every single touch point is a sell. And people do not open their social media. They do not open their email to buy. They go to Amazon to buy, but they don't open their social media to buy. They do it to be social. When they open their emails, just think about what else is in that inbox. There's 100 people who are trying to sell stuff in that, whether it's spam or, Etsy sending you like a, hey, check this out, or whatever, right? So if you can, when everybody's zigging, if you can zag and if you can just be there to provide information, to document, to do all those things, even if you just point them to a social media post where you've got an update on your next property, etc., and just say, this is what we've been doing, then you are much more likely to stand out. And yes, some people will follow the journey, some people unsubscribe, but you don't care about the unsubscribed. You just care about the people who stick around.
Yeah,
And
exactly. I mean,
that's the best way to do it.
another great book. I hadn't heard that one, but I'll put it on my reading list.
Mhm.
Mark, this has been amazing. I always learn something whenever I talk to you, whenever I see you in person. I think this is such an important topic. People really need to understand. You don't want to build completely on someone's land. The Airbnbs, Booking.coms are all really important, but knowing who your customers are, having for them to have a way to book with you, to develop your own list so that you can sell your company, or you have some independence there. You have some optionality there is super critical. If someone's interested if you're a host and you're interested in Boostly, in building and learning more about how to build your own direct booking channel, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So if you go to the website, which is boostly.co.uk, make sure you go to .co.uk. You've got all the information you can find there. If you want to really just get started, then just go onto Amazon and just pick up these 2 books. So Book Diet Playbook, Book Diet Blueprint, they're literally on there. You can buy them both for under $20. And it's a great way to start getting educated more on this. There's plenty packed in there to get you going. And if you want to, take that dive and you want people for us to do it for you, come into our world, then yeah, come ahead and you can book a call straight from the website.
Yeah, no, I was actually looking. It's right in front of me, so I won't go and reach for the book. But those are two excellent
Thank
books. I read them both. Very, very helpful to educate yourself on that. Like, I mean, you'll definitely learn something from those books, and they're not a large investment, and it just helps kind of frame your thinking about if you want to get into short-term rental business. Like, these are things that you want to think about, want to consider. So, Mark, thanks for putting together some great reading
you.
material,
Thank
and
you.
thanks again for coming on the show. I appreciate your time.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.